Welcome to the Real ResQ podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicast. This episode of the Real ResQ is being sponsored by Breeze Eastern. They dedicate themselves to our helicopter rescue world. Since the very first helicopter rescue in November of 1945, Breeze Eastern has designed and manufactured superior rescue hoist solutions. While much of the technology and the unique mission requirements have changed over the past 75 years, their commitment to the rescuers, the operators, and those being rescued has not. Contact them today by visiting them at breeze-eastern.com. Coming up next on this episode of the Real ResQ, we're joined by another Coast Guard finned brother. He brings us stories from Houston, Alaska, Cape Cod, and down to Elizabeth City, North Carolina. They are awesome. Super good time. The other part I love about this is him and I have been friends for a long time, and every time we get together, it's just laughing. I absolutely love it. It's so fun for me to hang out with him. Just the stories that come out of him, they're hilarious. Some of them you're going to hear here are just as funny. So please welcome our next guest, United States Coast Guard rescue swimmer number 537, Mr. Claude Morrissey. My name is Jason Quinn. I am United States Coast Guard rescue swimmer number 500. These are my rescues and rescues from those of us that put our lives on the line every day so others may live. This is the Real ResQ podcast. Oh my God, Claude, I'm so excited right now.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Real ResQ. I've got another finned brother with me. I'm super pumped to have this guy on. There's a lot of backstories. Actually, you and I hung out together in Priority 1 Air Rescue while we were standing duty down there. I think that's actually the only time that you and I actually stood duty together. Other than that, it was like just stories of each other in every spot. So
yeah, chasing Quinny. So
yeah,
infamous pull-up king. I'm like, oh my God.
Whatever.
So yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. United States Coast Guard rescue swimmer number 537, Mr. Claude Morrissey. My brother. What's up, dude?
Hey, what's up, Quinny, man? How you doing this morning? So.
Dude, I'm awesome. Super, super awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and joining me. I'm psyched to hear a bunch of your stories. This has been kind of cool because I've been reading through some of your awards, just going over like a bunch of the stuff that you've done throughout your career. And I'm stoked to get into this. I really am. It's gonna be fun.
I can't wait, brother. Can't wait.
Cool. So let me start with this. Let's go right into a little background about you, where you're from, how you got into the Coast Guard, and I don't know how and why you became a rescue swimmer. But I got to throw this out to you, Claude. All right. Not only did you start earning stuff in the Coast Guard, you actually earned something in high school. You were a Nixon superstar, a 50-yard dash at 9.7 seconds, jump rope of 11. Softball throw, 71 feet. Frisbee throw 47 feet, long jump 4 feet 4 inches, and a run around Nixon School at 1 minute and 20 seconds. Yeah, buddy.
Dude, it was killer back then. It was all competition, right? So being a fat kid, sometimes you win, So, but
I gotta throw that out there to you, dude. High school, yes.
Yeah, I was pretty pumped about that. I think that was third grade. So
Oh, that's even funnier. That was like 1985.
Oh yeah, it was probably at 76 I was born, so it's probably you're probably right, 85. So,
Oh, that's funny. That's so funny. All right, dude. Little background about you, man. Outside of the Nixon superstar.
I was such a fat kid, dude. I was like all feet and head. There was just nothing else but feet and head. Size 15 in third grade, and just this humongous head that it just led me everywhere, So, and I was special education, which was awesome. So I got a lot of perks. So.
All right.
Tons of perks being special ed. So.
Did it keep going?
What's that? Being special ed?
Special ed?
Oh my God, I was up to high school and they finally pulled me out of it. But my mother put me in and I'm like third grade. I'm like, oh my God, I was a hyper kid. Go figure, swimmer being hyper, right? And they didn't know how to deal with me. They didn't want to medicate me back then. So like, this kid's fucking retarded. So they put me in with all the special kids and they're all eating their boogers and pissing their pants. I sit there in the class. I'm like, I don't belong here. Like, I just don't belong. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm third grade. And that's all my buddies. I'm in this special room with all these kids that are eating boogers and great kids, but good friends in life. But I'm like, I don't belong here. And it's sure than shit, dude. Well, it's cool because I got double field trips. So I go to regular class and we get our own class. So it's always got double field trips. So it's like, I'm not going to ruin this. So anyway, got study hall, credit for study hall. It was awesome, dude. So I'd go back tomorrow if I could. So,
That's hilarious.
Fun anyway.
Where are you from?
I'm from New Jersey, God's country. You know that place called Roxbury, New Jersey. So
yeah,
God's
country. Yeah. Jersey. What exit?
Yeah, Bon Jovi and Bruce Springsteen. All the big ones, big bands. So
yeah.
But we all been there, Cape May.
It's funny because I asked like what exit. So for everybody that doesn't know, when you drive up the state of New Jersey, you're either on the Turnpike or you're on the Parkway. That's how we say it in Boston. The Parkway.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, what exit are you? Exit 1, if I remember correctly, is like, okay. Wilmington. Exit 1 is down at the bottom, and then exit whatever's on top.
Way up on top. And everybody goes through it. Everybody goes through Jersey. But I'm from a small town, dude. We're kind of rural. We wouldn't even think of it. Jersey's got 2 armpits. You got the New York armpit and you got the Philly armpit down south. Everything in between is cool as shit, But I grew up a pretty good life in the country. So it was fun as hell, man. But,
very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Jersey. Nice. I don't want to go back there. Don't get me wrong, but So.
I don't blame you. All right. So what brought you to the Coast Guard?
So this is 98, 1998, July weekend. I'm having a hard time with girls, I'm going through a breakup, or I want to get with the girl. She's not giving me any time. And another girl I'm hanging out with, she's like, I like guys in uniform. And I'm like, I don't want to be a cop, like firefighter, yeah, but I couldn't get any job as a firefighter. So I think it was my wife, actually. She likes guys in uniform. Still likes guys in uniform. Breaks my heart. But she so anyway, I'm going through a bad breakup in life. So I'm sitting there. I work for the power company with my dad. And next thing I know, like we're sitting there talking. I go, Dad, I'm gonna join the Marine Corps. They got the best uniforms. And my dad was Army, Vietnam. He's like, Marine Corps. And his buddy walked in at that time. And he was a tunnel rat in Vietnam. This guy's about not this big, tunnel rat guy named Paulie Williams, got hearing aids, got blown up like 4 times. He's like, join the Coast Guard. I'm like, my dad goes, yeah, the Coast Guard. I go, Dad, Paulie, what's the Coast Guard? You mean like Baywatch? Like, because Baywatch is big back then,
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, Pamela Anderson. Yeah, I could, I'm like 21, 22 at the time. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll give the Coast Guard a call. It'd be kind of cool because I was a firefighter, EMT back then. So I called the Coast Guard, and the guy that actually pushed in the 65, they were doing auto rotations, and they pulled both engines back, and he pushed them forward. This guy, Ted, I want to say his name's Tim Finney, but that's not right because Finney is one of our instructors. Anyway, he recruited me. He was the first or second class AMT, and I get to get to there, and I get to the office to get recruiting, and they got that video playing of the rescue swimmer and the boat. I'm like, I want to be the guy that drives the boat, and I want to be the guy that jumps out of the helicopter. And he goes, yeah, you can do whatever you want, typical recruiter. Oh yeah, you can do both. I'm like, oh wow, I think he said one or the other. He was pretty honest. So lost some weight, got in the Coast Guard, went into Coast Guard Golf 154, October of 98. End of 98, like I'm in Halloween. I'll never forget, our first week was during Halloween. I'm like, I could be hanging out with my buddies, drinking beer, but now I'm in this like, it's worse than being in special education first week of boot camp, and everybody's breathing on each other, and you got you just don't know what to do. It's not a hard thing, but you're just trying to figure the routine out, right? And it's just like, man, what bad choices in life that led me to this part, you know. And of course, you know, over the 8 weeks, it makes you feel. But that was our first week of Halloween. I'm like, I could be out looking at some girl that's like not even dressed right now, some skimpy shit, and here I am in boot camp looking at this guy's, you know, in the shower, and you're like, oh my god, there's no privacy, you know. It's like, oh my, you know, not that I cared, but I'm like, man, bad choice, you know. So it was worth it though, man. But went to boot camp with Chris Davis. You've heard about him. He's
Love
actually a
Chris
social
Davis.
worker.
Him and
He's
I were
actually a
stationed
social.
together in the honor guard. Just so you know.
Yeah, he came home with me after boot camp before he went to California back home. And he's just an awesome guy, man. He's a good flight mechanic, good friend. He's actually doing social work because my kids are both out of the system in Massachusetts. My two middle kids, and he's just an awesome guy. You know, just anybody that does social work's like way above it. You know, they got to deal with so much stuff. You know.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
you wouldn't think he's a big old, you know, tattooed up guy. You know, you wouldn't think he would be a social worker. You know, I'd be like, who the fuck's this guy coming in?
Yeah,
you know,
if I remember correctly, he was about the same height as you and I, like 6'4",
yeah,
6'5", somewhere in there. Yeah, big
good
dude.
looking like me. Maybe not as good looking as me and you, but close.
Nah,
you know?
close.
So,
You know what? He can work on it.
yeah, yeah.
I can't wait to
use
hear
some
from
work.
him now. I'm so excited.
I know. Yeah.
Come on,
So,
Chris, call me.
oh, so yeah, boot camp. Easiest thing in the world, and let's not lie compared to summer school. Just go in, eat, march around, eat, and then hey, we're gonna go through it. And then went to a boat, man, and I had a great time on a boat, you know. So I was on a boat out of Philadelphia, 65 foot of twisted steel and sex appeal. I painted that thing like 6 times from the top to the bottom because somebody told me, they said, if you work hard, you know, they won't bother you. So I always had a paintbrush or rag in my hand. And to this day, it works, you know. I'm like, boatman's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm painting. He's like, what? It's 4 degrees outside. You have a paintbrush here. I'm like, I don't know. I just got a paintbrush. So I just walk around with a paintbrush in my hand. He goes, but they never yelled at me. They never yelled at me because I had a paintbrush in my hand, you know, or a rag wiping something down in the engine room. We did both. No, it was a good time, man. There were some really good mentors, super good guys in the boat that supported me to go to aviation. So that was important, you know. So
That's
I
cool.
was actually on a DC list, and
which is damage control for those that don't
yeah,
know.
damn sure.
That
Yeah,
you can go in and fix anything. It's broken.
yeah.
DC fixes
Well,
it.
because it was firefighting, right? That's what I want to be. I got to get my points, get on New York City Fire Department. I got to tell you that story too. I was going to be on New York City Fire Department. That's why I joined the Coast Guard, get the points, you know, and you know, it's going to do 4 years and get out. And was on a DC list, damage patrolman list, and then something fell through there. And this guy Jay DeCabe is a match chief now. I think he's a rating force match. He retired, but Bob Field and Chief Kerner and this MK1 Rennie Scheitz, they were all great guys. Just want to mention names. They really mentored me, you know, at a young age, and you know, they put me in for the list of person of the year, and I beat Scaff out. And it was like, so I get the
that would
award.
be Shannon Scaff, who's been on this podcast.
Yeah. So it's a small world. So here I am a non-rate. I beat him out for D5, and I'm going to go up to the next, you know, hopefully get Nashville, get Merit-Twisted loaded to the swimmer, not to go to school. That was not going to happen. So anyway, you think that's a non-rate? I'm like, oh, I'll be an E4. I won't have to go to swimmer school. Just make me one now. So I get my orders to Elizabeth City, and I check in, and there's old Scaff. I'm like, he's like, and they kind of figured it out because they had to do an award ceremony. He's like, you beat Scaff out. So all the guys are razzing Scaff. Scaff, you got beat up by a fat non-rate over here, you know? And it's just like, oh man, I'm like, that's gonna kill me. And he was my mentor. He was awesome, dude. Like Shannon, you couldn't ask for a better, you know, coming into the rate for a true honest assessment. I mean, he could PT, you know, it was awesome. But get back into a boat was awesome. Glad I did it. Don't want to go back. I'm okay with not going back on a boat ever again, you know. And so I get to Elizabeth City in June of 2000. And I think you had been out for, when did you graduate? 99 sometime. So
I graduated March of 2000. So I
okay.
was there July of 99, and then went to school, whatever, July September, October, November-ish, somewhere in there. October, November is when I got into school. So I had just done my airman program in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. And the only thing I had a hard time with was push-ups. That's it. Like I could crank them out, but in comparison to everybody else in the shop, dude, my push-ups sucked. So,
dude, anything in the shop, dude, they were men. I mean, they were mentors. They were men. They were, I mean, so I get to, it's funny too. I get to the shop, and the first person I meet is Mike O'Dell. I'm like checking in on Monday. Just yeah, this huge star case. Shannon and Troy Lundgren got a huge star, got air medals for it. You know, nobody's around. It's a typical Monday, Elizabeth City. They worked all weekend. They just went out and killed SAR. You know, just got like 3 monster SAR cases. Nobody's there. I'm like, what's going on here? You know? So Mike Odell pops in. I'm like, hey sir, I'm Airman Morrissey. And he's like, why are you not doing push-ups? I'm like, so you know, you just drop pretty much. You start doing push-ups. He's like, you're the worst push-up. Just get up. You know how Mike Odell is. He just is checking it too from the schoolhouse. So he brings me around and brings me over to the C-130 hangar, and this Ginger Barnes is there. She's like, yeah, you don't belong here. Go back to the shop. Walk in again. Why are you doing push-ups? Because every time you went through the door, you were doing push-ups. You remember?
That's right.
It was
Yeah.
It was
you walk in the shop, you walk out of the shop. You're doing pull-ups, push-ups, squats, something.
I mean, I remember we'd have like 5 bags of garbage and like 2 things to go to supply because they're like, hey, because they want to keep going in and out and make you do it, you know? So you like have this handful of shit. Like, no, that's not how it works, Airman. They're like, Jerry Hoover's like, drop that stuff, take 1 bag at a time, come in and do 50 push-ups, you know, but they were great. I mean, they got you ready. And so, you know, I Monday goes by and they're like, hey, we're going to go to the pool tomorrow, you know, be ready for a PT test. That was a disaster, man. I couldn't do pull-up. I could do push-ups, sit-ups. I was quick at running. So I did my run, couldn't do 1 pull-up. They're like, oh my God, fat body like pile. They're like, not even 1 pull-up. There's a jelly, you know, they just start on, you know, jelly donut. And they're like, I'll never forget, I'm hanging there. They're like, you're no Jason Quinn. I'm like, Jason who? I'm like, Jason who? Like, shut up, Airman. Jason Quinn. You don't say his name unless we tell you to. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, who is this guy? I'm like, when I get to so that went on for a while. So I'm like, if I ever see this guy, I'm gonna kick his ass. I'm gonna kick his ass, you know. And but there's another one, you know, it's like
so funny.
you're not mad, I'm not mad at you, but it's like, you know, because you get through it, you're like, oh man, that's awesome. But they just were trying to motivate you. But you were like the pull-up king, you know. He's such a great airman. Oh my God, we can't even get airman like him, and you show up, you know. It's just funny, you know. It was
it's terrible, man. I'm so sorry, dude.
No, it was so worth it. It was, hey, you can't help the gifted.
Yeah,
But dude, they were mentors,
whatever.
man. They were mentors. Sean Lansing, Scaff, Lundgren, Odell, Hoover. Oh man, I could. God, I'm forgetting somebody. I know I am. Darren Reeves. It was Sidney Kessel and PJ Ornott, Dave Foreman. Oh, Dave Foreman graduated the Friday before, so he's there too in the shop. He's like, you know, they were just beasts, man. They were just beasts of men, you know, and good shop. If you made it through Elizabeth City Airman program, and I had to do a few months extra because I was so fat and pull-ups and stuff, but you know, but they were mentors, man. Them guys, they would mentor you, and if they liked you, they kept you, and they saw something in me, thank God. And Jerry Hoover actually said that. He says, we don't usually keep guys around. For some reason, we like you. I'm like, okay, that's good, I guess. And yeah, if you made it to Elizabeth shop, school was easier in Elizabeth City shop, in my opinion. I don't know how you felt. Like they were like, school was different, but
I felt ready to go, dropping into school, coming out of East City for sure.
Yeah. There was no, at the time, nobody failed Elizabeth City. I think maybe one person went and came back, but they had made it through. But it was just, what a good shop. What just all around good shop, you know. So I go back to there in a heartbeat if I could.
I'm actually going to call it a little home court advantage is what I'll call it. Because we got to train in the pool that we were going to for school. We did all the same runs that everybody in school was doing. So everybody from a different air station came in and they're like, oh, okay, hey, here's the 1.5 mile run. Here's the pool. Here's this, here's that. We had already been there for months.
Yeah.
Like,
So
I got this.
Yeah,
I know what lane to use in the pool. I know what area that you can pick up on the run.
I couldn't swim either really good. I was very comfortable in the water, which saved my ass. But like, I'll never forget, like, you're like, and I was I figured out the first time to like do it underwater. So I popped halfway, and Troy Lundgren's like, he's gonna go to the schoolhouse being instructor at the time. He's like, you better not pop and get her. I'm gonna kick your ass. I'm like, oh my God, Troy Lundgren's like the Terminator, you know? So I figured it out quick, like just hold your breath and just get it done. And dude, I didn't mind being underwater. Nobody was yelling at you. I'm like, I can hang out here forever, you know? And so yeah, I never popped again. Very rarely popped. Yeah, because we did have the home. We knew the pool. We knew how to get it done, you know. So
Yeah,
deployed off the tower, so we knew it, you know. Yeah, it was fun, dude. So
that was
Brad
cool.
Torrens was there, you know. It was awesome, dude. So
Yeah,
you know, it
that's
was
so
just a
fun.
good time. Way good.
So
So
after you graduate school, and you go back to the shop and you're like, screw you, Jason Quinn. I freaking made it. What now?
I mean, well, you had been. I think you had been in Alaska, right? Was that where you
Yeah,
went to your first unit?
yeah, right out of school, I went up to Kodiak.
So,
So
so this it's so small, you know, like and yeah, it's like pull up King, Jason Quinn, you know, that's how I remember you. And you know, I'm on my way to Houston, and I didn't want to leave Elizabeth City. There was such a good shop, like Timmy Kessel and PJ Ornott and Dave and Shannon Brew. I mean, Brew was my chief as a first, and he was just awesome too, man. He just, you know, they wanted to get you ready, you know, and they had fun with you, you know. I forget I'm missing somebody, but it's been a long time. But yeah, not being, you know, beating Shannon Scaff out for the EPOY of the year, then getting rode about that was horrible, you know. But yeah, summer school was something I didn't mind doing, but you still have nightmares, you know. For like the longest time, I had nightmares, you know. You know, like a couple of years after, like wife would wake up, like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "Ah, I'm just thinking about school." You know, school was definitely, you know, they got you ready to go on SAR cases, you know. So
oh, that's
yeah,
awesome.
but yeah,
All right, well, I'll tell
so
you what, man. I'm gonna bring us down to Houston real quick, and I'm gonna throw a little shout out to you because you earned a letter of accommodation down there, and you were not even qualified yet,
oh my God,
dude.
dude.
Well, hold on. Let me read it. And then you can drop into it. So, 23 August 2001 to AST Claude Morrissey. Letter of accommodation. I note with pride and am pleased to commend you on your performance of duty while assigned to Coast Guard Air Station Houston, Texas during Tropical Storm Allison flood relief operations from 8 June to 10 June 2001. During this period, your hard work and dedication as a member of the air station maintenance line crew directly contributed to the safe and timely launch of over 200 successful sorties, saving 27 lives and assisting 29 others. Despite challenging weather conditions and demanding mission tasking, you tirelessly completed 140 hot refueling evolutions, repeated, resupplied, and serviced the unit's fuel truck, and performed multiple other performance functions that were critical to ensuring the unit remained 24-hour mission ready. You also performed vital triage and stabilization of medical patients as they arrived on the helicopter returning to the air station. You provided essential primary care for both a 13-year-old quadriplegic and a 60-year-old blind diabetic patient as they waited for ground transportation to fully equipped medical facilities. Your outstanding efforts are greatly appreciated and playing a vital part in flood relief's ultimate success. You are commended for your outstanding performance of duty. By your meritorious service, you have upheld the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard. Claude, you're not even qualified yet, dude.
I know, dude. It was just I had some good mentors there, like Reese Boxwell. They looked out for me. You know, Reese Boxwell, Mark Pipkin. You know Pipkin, right? Was he in class with you?
Yeah, he was not. He was the one or two classes in front. Actually, I think he graduated Gabe Sage, so it would have been two classes in front of me.
Anyway, they were awesome guys. Bobby Ayers, Mark Vale was there. Anyway, Ed Hanna, awesome dude. And God's Crusader, man. He's just awesome dude. But anyway, these guys are all going out. I'm not qualified. I'm like probably like I think I just got to my swimmer phase. So I got qualified. I got there in May. I got there about beginning of May. I got my BA done, and I was like ready. You know, I was like getting ready to go in. And it kind of like sidetracked me a little bit. You know, I had to wait a couple of weeks to get normal operations back to get qualified. But anyway, I'm like, hey man, I'm on line crew. I'm gonna make the best of it. So, you know, they're dropping. We actually got in trouble because they were hoisting to the ramp because they don't want to bag out. So they they were over 6 hours and they was dropping people down in the basket. And the EO found out. He's like, "You guys can't be doing that stuff." I'm like, Mr. Hahn, Captain Hahn, he's a great dude. He's like, "Oh, you can't do that." And I'm like, I'm just not, I'm just a third class, I'm just getting these people out of the basket. It was a good time, man. It was Hurricane Tropical Storm Allison came in, dumped a bunch of water in Houston, and just made a huge mess of things. And you look on the news and you're going to duty, and you're like, "Oh my God, there's my shop chief on the roof cutting on the roof of a hotel, pulling people out in North Houston. Oh my God, there's Chris Monville doing this, and you get so motivated, like
Yeah.
you just want to be involved, and other units are coming in, Corpus and Clearwater showing up, and New Orleans is showing up, and everybody's doing work, and you just want to help out. So I was like, all right, I'll do the best I can at line crew, and they recognized that all of us. It was kind of cool. They didn't have to do that. Line crew goes. It's like the flight mechanic. They're the humble. What do they call it? The quiet professionals. I mean, they're just.
Yeah.
We know that the flight mechanics do so much work and a lot of behind the scenes work to make that one rescue happen. So, yeah, I got that. And the funny thing is this ambulance comes in. I see this ambulance. I'm at the side of the planes turned up. We're getting ready to pull this quadriplegic kid out of the helicopter. I think that Reese had got Reese Boxwood did, and they're coming in hot. I'm looking at it, so I'm like, oh my God, they're going to come right next to the hell, and the blades are spinning, So I kind of walked out, and they barely missed me. I'm at the edge of the rotor, on the side, so they almost hit the rotors. Like it was almost like they're going to drive in. I don't know what they were thinking. Drive up right to the helicopter. I'm like, dude, it had to be like 3 feet. They missed this turned up helicopter. I'm like, so it's like, holy shit, and it was just crazy, dude. It's just any kind of flood ops, like the Katrinas and stuff, like it's a lot of work, but it's rewarding work because it's nonstop, So, but yeah, it was a good time in Houston. I had a great unit there, man. We made Coast Guard Jackass. You ever hear that?
Was that you guys? Was that your unit that did that?
Yeah. Oh man. Oh my God. You ever heard of that? It was crazy,
So,
dude.
everybody hears it through the grapevine, but now that I have you here, I get to hear it firsthand.
Oh my
Yes.
God, dude. So they're like, "Hey, destroy these computer things. We got to just everything in the Coast Guard. Got to destroy the computers. They want it destroyed before you throw it out. So we're like, okay, well, we'll just hit it with a mule. Then it turns into let's hit it with a mule as it's being thrown off a roof from the hangar at a high rate of speed on the mule. But we better put a helmet on because we're gonna get, we don't want to get hurt, And dude, we
Safety
had to start
first.
a. Oh my God, it was just there's so much antics that go on behind the scenes. I think for our mental health, I don't think we're doing it because we just want to. It's bonding with each other, but it was when Jackass came out. So everything Jackass was doing, we're like, we'll tow a check stand that was out back with a mule with all of us on it, but we better put our helmets on, And some guys got in trouble for that. I think Josh Barnes got in some trouble. I was in Cape Cod, so I had some good cover. I got pulled into a mass chief's office, and Jeff Amatrudo was like, "I saved your career." I'm like, you're sent class in the mass chief's office, command CMC. I'm like, what are you talking about, mass chief? He's like, "I saved your career." I'm like, that's how Jeff Amatrudo was about this high, but he
Yeah, sure.
just had this, you're like, this guy's like a mass chief, like next to God, And he's like, Morrissey, you owe me one. And I'm like, okay, mass chief, what's up? He's like, what's this Coast Guard Jackass? I'm like, oh, I don't know anything about that. He goes, I can see you going across the hangar deck in your harness, so don't act like you don't know what's going on. I'm like, oh, I was just load testing my harness, Matt Sheet. He goes, in your underoos? Now you're not, because he's messing with you. You're not trying to laugh. I think Hawkmaster was in there with me. Hoff's like we're like, am I getting booked? Like, what's going on? Am I going to go to the brig? And he's just like, no, you're okay. I saved your ass, but don't let this happen again. I'm like, noted, got out of there. But yeah, it was the Coast Guard Jackass. It was kind of, I wish I could pull it back up. Once in a while it'll surface and people get they think they're getting trouble still. I'm like, that's so far. That's 25 years ago, man. Nobody's worried about that,
No.
But
Don't do it
Coast Guard.
anymore. All right. Don't do it
No,
anymore. You
dude,
can't get away with it now.
dude, they would have put me under the jail and threw the key. They would have buried me under the jail nowadays. I mean, these kids they're held to a standard now. That I mean, we were cowboys, Quinn. Quinn, were we cowboys or not, man?
You know what? There might have been a couple things that we got away with.
Oh my god, that we should not have. Oh my god. So that was
I
Coast
can
Guard
neither
Jackass.
confirm nor deny, Claude.
Now, there's some other stuff that I could tell you about, like pictures of half. One guy's in Cape Cod that we did, sent it out. There was some stuff some practical jokes that went on that I was a part of that I'm very proud of, like the penis on the visor of Scott Holloway's
We'll get
helmet.
into that.
And,
We'll get into that.
oh.
Wait a minute. Don't ruin that one yet. I love how you dropped it now, though. We're not even in Cape Cod, dude. We haven't even hit your very first rescue. All right, so
I know, and I'm already trying to go to the brig. Yeah, I should have been studying for a service flag, but I was trying to figure out how to be wild, you know. And so yeah, the first rescue. You want to hear about it? You want to hear?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
All right. So Reese Boxwell, huge mentor in my life, really good friend. He takes me through it. You know, he takes me through the whole process. You know, gets me qualified, and I'm a model 65. It's June. Me and Reese are big dudes, and like we're doing like one hoist to get done, like one hoist a night. I'm like, this is crazy. You know, you go out and do a hoist. Okay, well tomorrow night we'll do a direct. I'm like, oh my god, this is terrible. Well, anyway, so Reese, huge, him and Pip, all them guys, Ed Hanna getting me qualified, just awesome guys. My first night is a Friday night. Reese goes home. He says, "I want the duty." I'm like, "Yes, I want the duty." They signed my letter. You know, I'm good to go. I want the duty. Yes. So it was actually Kima Boardwalk, two coasties that were boaties jumped off the pier and swam across, and they thought they drowned. And so these guys are drunk, trying to press some girls. They jumped off. Somehow they disappeared, but they were fine. You know, so we go out, we launch on them, fly all night on them. You know, and they turned up at their house drunk. You know, so it's like, oh, they come to the air station like 3 weeks later, apologizing, and I'm like, oh, I could see that happen to me very easily. You know, I wouldn't drown. You know, we're swimmers. So these guys are all humble. Hey, we're sorry, we burned your jet fuel and everything else. And but we had Houston was very busy. So I think in that time we had a medevac the next day of just somebody like to drop the basket, picked them up, and then we went to this is all like a Friday night duty, and then we went to a crew boat that caught on fire, and like they were going to abandon 14 people. I'm like, oh my god! And of course we get there's a dive boat and another crew boat came next to them, pulled them all off. I'm like, son of a goddamn boats, you know. So and you know, I got off duty and I was like, man, this is going to be awesome. So I'm going to get in the water next case, you know. So it took me 2 years from that point because everybody else is getting water cases. Like, I think I got dental work one day, and Mark Tipton got like an air medal or something because I had dental work. I had to go to the dentist. I'm like, I'll be back, and the dentist gave me Novocaine. So I come back, I'm like drooling all over myself. Like, you can't stand duty like this. I'm like, I'm fine, you know. And like, I think I was half high, and he's like, I'll take your duty. And like, no lie, 10 minutes later, he goes out for a helicopter crash, you know, with you know, gets an air medal. I'm like, son of a bitch. So, but you know, it was Houston. And then, so that led me to my first water case. And if you want me to talk about that, so.
But so this is actually pretty cool for me because not only did you earn yourself an award, which it was a
Achievement
medal. So you earned an achievement medal, which I don't have because it's all buried in your butt. Yeah, whatever. No big deal. No big deal. But you and your crew, you guys earned, hold on, the Coast Guard Foundation Award for the 8th District in 2004. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And actually, here it is. Ready? Air Station Houston. It was a storm-drenched morning on July 15, 2003, when 2 shrimp fishermen from Houma, Louisiana, found their boat sinking 5 miles south of Sabine Pass jetties in Sabine, Texas. Lieutenant Brian Kostecki, Lieutenant Junior Graves, John Scott, Aviation Maintenance Technician 2nd Class Aaron Nacho, and Aviation Survival Technician 3rd Class Claude Morrissey, launched in the pre-dawn hours into the onslaught of Tropical Storm Claudette to respond to a Mayday call. Flying with 500-foot ceilings, half-mile visibility, and 50-knot winds, the crew encountered driving range and fierce winds. During their search, they spotted 2 fishermen in life jackets surrounded by fuel and tied off to a submerged 90-foot shrimp boat. The crew realized the fishermen were in immediate danger due to the toxic fuels, the close proximity of the rocks, and crashing waves. The Coast Guardsmen quickly maneuvered the aircraft in position, and Morrissey, the rescue swimmer, jumped into the water. As strong currents repeatedly pulled the fishermen underwater, Morrissey realized the 2 fishermen were entangled in the lines of the sunken vessel. Morrissey repeatedly dove below the surface to cut the fishermen free using his survival knife. The crew then quickly swam for the rescue basket and was hoisted aboard the aircraft. Once the men were safely on board, the air crew flew the fishermen to St. Mary's Hospital in Beaumont, Texas, where they were treated for hypothermia. Bro, that's
cool.
freaking awesome, dude.
Yeah,
You're diving underwater to cut guys free. What the?
Well, you can't see nothing, right? So I'm like, I go to grab the one guy, and I'm like,
well, wait. Let's back up, because I like the whole story. So you got a tropical storm Claudette that's coming in, and you guys get launched out for this.
Yep. Hurricane Claudette hits. We get launched out in the morning, and it's not bad, but it's like blowing good. I'm like, this isn't going to be a little sporty for a 65, not a 60. Any other day in Kodiak, that would have been a Tuesday. You know what I mean? Like that's just normal.
Totally.
Like your Kodiak's totally different, right? So, but Houston, it's a big deal. So you kind of jump out of the. You wake up, you get launched. And actually, I took Chris Monville's duty. I had something going on. So I took Chris Monville's duty the night before. Every sponsor told me, he goes, you want to take duty for Chris? I'm like, yeah, there's a hurricane coming. I might get some work, like thinking like inland SAR. And so long, we go out, we launch out, and we're going on the coast. It's buffer. It's like 65s. They're not like 60s. They're not capable like 60s, but it was holding its own. It's a B model. And we're coming along the coast there, and a couple of cars, it lowered me down to see people are in, and it's just so powerful. The waves are, just little like rollers are coming in and moving these cars. So I'm like, oh my God, like I'm gonna get crushed between a car and a fence. So anyway, nobody's in these cars. We go to these guys, and we start making our search patterns because we can't find these guys at first. And all of a sudden we see them, and they're between the jetties, but it's so flooded out because of storm surge that they're right there. The boat ran over the jetties and sunk. So I don't know how the hell that happened, but it ran over the jetties, it sunk, and these 2 guys are tied off just the boat. I guess it's in the middle of the channel now, and they're tied off and they're bobbing and they're in their life vest. So they lower me down. I swim up to them, and they're Vietnamese guys, and they grab a hold of me. I'm like hugging my buddies here. I got these guys, and I'm like, hey, how you doing? Like, oh, we lost our dog. I'm like, oh, I'm not worried about your dog. I feel bad, but and they're Vietnamese and a little bit of language barrier. So I'm like, I'm going to take you first. So I go to separate them, and I'm like, I'm trying to swim away from them, and I'm like, he's like, we're tied off. I'm like, oh shit. So of course, when they tied off, it's this huge, like, I just imagine how much they probably strung it this way and that way, this way. So I got to do a spinal highway on these guys. Remember that? You put your head in the guy's ass. I didn't really do that. I just kind of grabbed the guy. He's so light, I'm so big. I grabbed the guy, get my knife out. I cut one, and I cut another one, and the other guy starts floating away. So I grab him, so he's free. I'm like, I got to take him first because somehow he's free in the boat. So I grab him. Bassett comes down. And we're covered in diesel. The boat's leaking diesel the whole time. So the whole time, my eyes are burning. I'm like, what is this smell? He's like, the boat's beneath us. And I'm like, diesel is all, you get diesel on you. It's like, oh my God, I'm gonna throw up, and it's just, you're in the waves and the diesel's all over you. You're like, oh my God, I'm getting seasick here. Anyway, get the guy to the basket, get the next guy. I think we did it direct to the next guy, cut him free. But, they got this line, like it looked like spaghetti when we got the helicopter because there's just all these lines hanging. Because I'm like, oh my God, like luckily we didn't kill this guy. I would have ripped him in half, So get him to the basket, get there and go to the hospital. And my eyes are burning. So I'm like, you're trying to triage them, and they're all excited. They're like, "You came down to the sky like an angel." The guy kept saying, "You're my angel." I'm like, if I'm an angel, we're in deep shit. You know what I mean? Maybe a Hell's Angel. He's like, thank you. And I'm like, okay. So we get to the hospital and land. It's always a production, right? And the nurses come out and I'm like, hey, you guys have a way I can like the nurses. I'm like, I can't really see that good. Do you way I can just wash down real quick? You have a big sink, or she goes, I had a shower. So, I was pretty fit back then, not like I am now. And I start walking through the hospital, and these guys get put in like triage, and there's just three nurses following me, and they're like, "We're gonna go to the shower," and I'm like, I'm not thinking, and so I get in the shower, and I'm like washing my head face, and I'm like, got soap, and their hand, like four hands come in and hand me soap, and I'm finally starting. It's I'm blurry, and there's this nurse. She goes, "Are you gonna take?" They go, "Are you gonna get naked?" And pretty much, I'm like, they got an audience. These women are trying to help me. Like, and his hands are washing me down. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get in trouble with my old lady. I'm like, I got to get the hell out of here. So I'm like all freaked out because there's like three nurses. They want me to like strip down. I'm like, oh, no, I'm just going to wash off and go, and like, this is like some kind of porn being made. I'm like, no way, dude. So they're like, you
Oh
can
my
take the
God.
clothes off if you want. I'm like, no. I'm like, I gotta go. So I'm like so embarrassed, because I'm not ready for that, and then, they weren't bad looking nurses, but I'm like, you're older. I'm like, I'm not getting naked in front of these ladies. Like, you should really. They're like, one girl's like, you should really take that stuff off so you get that diesel off you. I'm like, no, I'm gonna go. So I run out of there like a little, like I was scared, they probably would have broke me. If I was single, it would have been game on. But helicopters all turned up and I'm making porno down there. No, it was kind of cool, man, because you're just so popular when you go to the hospitals. The whole place
Oh
stops.
my God.
Every hospital you go to see a helicopter, they think you're like this just awesome. They think you're superheroes, and it's just fun, But so we fly back, and that's my first case, and the pilots are making fun of me, because I'm like, I'm telling the story about. They're like, only you could wind up having us sitting up here, and you're down there bullshitting away. Jack Conway down there too, and so it was just a lot of fun, a lot of fun. But Nacho was my flight mech, and he missed. He was the guy that was cleaning the rotor head, and he lost a finger, lost tip of his fingers. Ever hear that story?
No, what
65
is
blade.
that?
They pulled a pin out of 65, and he put his finger in, and somebody the head turned, and he lost. So they call him Nacho. And it's like Nacho. And you ever see in the doors of the 65, it says Nacho sucks. And he's just a great guy. He's just one of them guys. It's just super good flight mechanic, a lot of fun to be around, and I still hit him up to this day. He's a good shit, So good flight mechanic. Had a lot of fun with him. Had a lot of cases with Nacho, man. A lot of cases, lots and lots of fun. So small
But
unit,
that
like
one,
humble.
that one being your very first water rescue.
Oh man, it was
Freaking hilarious.
yeah, it was awesome, dude. It was way
Well
awesome.
done.
So,
Well done to
yeah,
you and the crew. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah. So
How did you
uh,
guys end up? You earned the award for the foundation award, or you were nominated, or both?
we earned it, and
Oh, good for you
Noodles was
guys.
over there. Nettles was over there too. They did a double crew for New Orleans and us, and we both went over there and went to a fancy dinner with the wife, and it was kind of cool in New Orleans. So yeah, it was just a good. It was Houston was a lot of fun, man. A lot of SAR, a lot of fun. Small shop, plenty of SAR, lots of
That's
medevacs.
so funny. So
Yeah.
there's two more I want to talk about while you were in Houston, because like, as we go through the list of rescues that you had down there, two of them that stand out to you that we talked about was you had people in the water that were swingers. What?
Oh, so
Like,
typical typical Sunday duty. Ready for this?
yeah.
Typical Sunday duty. Typical Sunday duty in Houston. Um, we get launched out 8 o'clock at night for overdue vessel, kind of dark. I'm in a gym working out. I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be a long night. So go out there, Captain Carabine, Tim Borelli, Josh Schiffer, and me, and all great crew. And she's the air station CO at Elizabeth City, Captain Carabine now, and she actually found these people like you always say, it was the last leg of our last search and all that stuff. It was like our last bag. We're like, it was uncoordinated Mayday. We got called out for, and we searched 2 bags. This is our 3rd bag, and we're like, we're gonna go out. We're gonna spend this bag. And we're gonna go home. And dude, no lie, like she's like, we're flying to the search pattern. She's like, I see something down there. I think it's a dolphin. And Tim Borelli, great pilot, he's like, let's go look. And so we kind of go back around. We make like 3 approaches looking for this thing. She said it was. And she saved them people that night by her. She's like, no, I saw something. And he's like, well, she's like, let's just go look. Let's just do one more approach. Go back around. It's hot as hell. We have full bag of gas. Go look. And there's these 4 people on the bow of this like Boston whaler, I'd say, that's sticking up like an iceberg. We're like, oh my God, Josh Shiffrey's on the FLIR. He goes, there's people down there. I'm like, oh my God. I woke up, I'm throwing my stuff on, because we're in a 3rd approach. I'm bored off my ass, So I throw my fins on, they lower me down, swim up to the thing. And before I got there, I'm coming up and I'm like, because they're all on the top of this boat, they're all hanging on and they're slipping off and stuff. This girl jumps on me. So she jumps on me and she jumped on me and she spun. So I'm holding her sideways, but my hands are on her breast. I'm like, oh my God, my hand's on her breast. So I move my other hand, it's on her other breast. And I go like that. I'm like, this is like, so I get in her cross chest. I'm like, man, I'm like basically feeling this woman up because she's jumping on me, and I don't want to drown her, we're going to go underneath to it. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to keep spinning her around till she calms down. So she gets her arm, somehow I'm in a cross chest, but she's got her arm around my neck, and I get her back to the boat, put her on like the top of the boat. I'm like, okay. And she's like, we've been out here for 4 hours. We want out of here. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to call a helicopter. We're going to figure this out. Because a 47 at a, one of maybe Porter, whatever it was coming out of, comes, they're like 5 minutes away. So, we're in like probably 6 foot seas, it just swells, it's just really weird, and it's just like they're bobbing, they're had enough. One guy can't swim. So, I put her back on the boat. I'm like calling the helicopter, and all of a sudden she jumps on me again. She's not just hanging on my back. I'm like, all right, she's on my back. I'm big enough. I'm like, all right, I'm talking to the boat. So the 47 comes in like super fast, so cool, man. At night comes in, you just see the wake. They come up, they like get like maybe like 20 yards away, and it just the boat just comes down, it comes back up. I'm like, this is awesome. I'm like just seeing this boat come in like this, and they're like yelling, okay, what do you need? I'm like, they're like, do you need a line? I'm like, no, I'm a freaking rescue swimmer. I'll swim them over. So I grab the woman, take her over, go grab the. One guy goes, I can't swim. I'm like, well, I got you, So he jumps on me and I'm feeling his titties, you know what I mean? I'm like, God, what's everybody? So, because you're trying to figure out how to put them, because you're not scared, and you're like a big dude. So I grab him, throw him on the boat. Next guy, I'm same thing. And the owners and finally the captain, it's his wife. Get to the boat and the boat's rocking. It's like 8-10 foot seas. So I'm like, I'm getting seasick. I'm getting the hell out of here, So I get in the 47, go in the gunnel, get my fins off, say, hey, thanks for flying Coast Guard. She goes, I'll bake you cookies. To the woman, I want your address. So you can bake you cookies. I'm like, yeah. So the cook comes down, make my dramatic departure, and it's always dramatic, go back, we're all high-fiving.
It's one of my favorites, dude.
yeah. So it was a pretty cool case, and we go breakfast as a crew to this Dixie diner. It was just awesome, man. We just really had some, like, really bonded with the crew, saved some lives. And I was like, man, Miss Carabine really saved these. And she was a lieutenant at the time. She was just really good person. And she's a CEO now, so of the air station. So she's actually lives down the street from me. But long story short,
Nope. Long story long. Long story long.
Long story
I
long.
like. Come on,
So,
don't be cutting stuff out.
So all of a sudden, like 6 months later, I got somebody that wants to meet you. And I'm like, what? He's like, I got somebody that wants to meet you. He's like, come on over to the house. I'm like, I'm not coming to the house because there's swingers Saturday night. I'm like, there's my wife won't appreciate this. So he's like, well, you pulled some people out of the ocean and they're at the club with me. I'm like, what club are you at, Bob? He goes, the swing club, the swing, whatever it was, couples romance, whatever the hell the place was. I'm like, well, I'm not going there if I want to save my marriage, So, and if I want to stay married. So anyway, I somehow I'm on duty one day and he comes up to the air station with them and I meet them and they're like, they're just swingers, So I'm like, So I go to Bobby, what's the story? Oh yeah, they're swingers, they're hardcore swingers. I'm like, oh, I don't want to know, I'm like saying my prayers, I'm Catholic, I'm doing, praying, but yeah, they remembered me, and she's a good looking woman. I'm like, man, Bobby, you're like, it was just funny because it's such a small world, you save somebody, and he's like, I'm a rescue swimmer in the Coast Guard. I was like, oh, rescue swimmer, they saved us. And it was just funny to see how the connection was made. Houston's a huge city. How could that possibly happen? And
Oh my
there's
gosh.
only like maybe 20 of us that live there. And he's basically swinging with this lady and her husband, thanks to me. Sorry, but small story. But
Oh
they
my
came to the air
gosh.
station, stood on the helicopter, and they were all like super grateful. But that's as far as it went. Back in, if I was 20 years younger, it would have been a whole different story. But I'm sure the Coast Guard doesn't want to have anything like that. But I always try to connect with the survivors at the end of it, because, like, to us it's every day, but to them it's a life. Like, we saved their life. Like, as a
Yeah.
crew, we say. I mean, think about that. People are like in the lost, like in the basket. The first person they're going to see when they're safe is that flight mechanic. They're like looking. That flight mechanic's looking down, and they're coming to the basket, and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm saved."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just a huge thing, for me to save somebody's life. And we just think of it as being a job, but it's really not. It's awesome. So anyway,
Bro, that's
but that was
hilarious.
that. That was that. That was cool. That was way cool. So
All right.
Bobby
All
Earth
right.
pulling some poontang for me. So,
Did he thank
but,
you? I mean, did he at least thank you
of
for it?
course, yeah.
Oh,
Maybe
okay, okay.
reached
Just
out.
checking. Thank you, Bobby. Well done, Bobby. All
Somebody
right,
hit
dude.
it.
Let me go to one more because it's the last memorable one that you have out of Houston, out of Houston, and helicopter crash with sharks under the raft and a 40-foot
So
free fall. What?
dude, it's Friday after. This is all like summer of 04, 05. Hurricane Ivan came through. It was just crazy amount of SAR. Like, it just, I didn't get any water cases for 2 years, and all of a sudden I was like, man, I'm not getting tired of this, but like this is just nuts. It's just one water case after another water case. Like, getting the water for this, getting water for that. So get called out for a helicopter crash. We work rigs, so the little 40 like Bell Jet Rangers, they come to the edge, they hop to the edge, and they fall off and they take off. Well, the guy fell off and he kept falling, so he hit the water, like 3 people in there. It was him and 2 or 3 guys, mechanics, and so we get called out. 47s getting launched out of I don't know where it was out of, but it was south of Houston, and we get out there and we see the life raft right away, right? So, oh shit, there's a life raft. Like, they're like, okay, we're super heavy. We're just gonna come to a low air hover, and we're just gonna jump out. Okay, so it's not a low air hover. It was like, to come in, it was super hot during the day, mid afternoon, no air, in a B model 65, and all of a sudden it's like, I'm waiting. I got the tap. What's it? Yeah, it's a tap across the chest, throw the counters belt back, and then it was like tap across the chest, and just the guy pushed me. I'm like, 40 feet. I'm falling out of this helicopter, and I hit the water, and I'm like, my fin actually went up, came off, and I had the strap around my ankle, and I came up in my foot. So I'm putting my fin back together. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, that was like 40 feet and 80 knots. It felt like, and just big ball of shit falling out of the helicopter. But, excuse me. So come up to the raft, and the 65 is looking for the pilot, because we're missing one guy. So pretty soon they come back over, and they're like, I'm at the edge of the raft. These guys broke their backs when they landed. So they're sitting on the edge of the raft, and they're like, don't move the raft. I'm like, it's a fucking sea state. What do you mean? I'm like, all right, I'm going to hang out outside the raft. So I'm talking to these 2 or 3 guys, and they're like, we're banged up pretty bad. Our backs are broke. I know my back's broke. Okay, so I'm not going to get in the raft and like start triage. I'm at the edge. I'm talking to them. All of a sudden, 65 comes back to where he goes, hey, you've got a large tiger shark underneath you. 2 of them.
Oh my
So I'm like,
God.
what? I'm like, what? So I look down. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, in a raft. Like, just like I had a spring on my ass, dude. Like, I sprung up out of the water, the guy, and I hit the guy with my fin getting in. I'm like, dude, there's fucking sharks down there. He goes, yeah, we know there's sharks. I'm like, you think you'd tell me? You know what I mean? And these things, they were probably only this big, dude, but it was still a shark underneath me. You know what I mean? So, so enough for the helicopter to see. So the 47
No.
comes up. I'm like, 47 motor light boat comes up again. They come in dramatically, cut their engines. They come like right up. I'm like, you got to come right to us. I'm like, I'm not getting in the water. These things are still there, And I'm looking down. I'm like, we're like, no, you got to swim to us. I'm like, I'm like, there's a shark, And they're like, I'm like,
Big shark. The hand
they're like,
signals. Big
yeah.
shark.
So I'm like, finally they get next to us. I'm like, there's a fucking shark under here, dude. And they're like, and I think it was gone by then, but they're like, and the helicopter goes, okay, so they found the pilot. They hoist the pilot up in a helicopter. So we're like, okay, what are we gonna do? It's like, they're like, we're gonna ride these survivors back in. You guys take the pilot. So the pilot had jumped out of the raft to go make a rig and he couldn't get to it. They dropped the basket, picked him up. I jump in the water. I'm looking for sharks. So the hook comes at me. They're hitting me with the head. I'm still trying to look for sharks, and the flight mechanic's got the strap and he's hitting me. So I hook up and I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm not scared of sharks. I don't want to get eaten though either. I'm not going to attempt it. So they bring me back up to the helicopter, and this guy's sitting in the back of my seat. So I get in the back. I'm like, oh man, there were some big. Yeah, we saw them. There were some big sharks. The pilot says, Mr. Jarrell, and we go to the airport and land. The pilot of the helicopter is with us, and he's like, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm like, I don't know where you're gonna go. We're in a helicopter. He knows. He's like, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm like, we're almost there. So we land at Brazoria County Airport. There's news crew there. The guy gets out, like goes to the edge of the helicopter and just starts diarrhea and just shitting on the ramp. I'm like, I'm looking out the window. I'm like, and I see the news crew, and they're filming this guy like blowing it out his ass. I'm like, sir. And I start giggling. I'm like, he doesn't see there's a news crew there filming this. And he's like, what's he doing? I'm like, he's shitting. He goes, stop him. I go, stop him. We're on ICS. I'm like, what do you want me to do? And the guy is just blowing it up. It's just like, if I can see it, it's gross, but it's like shooting out his ass. I'm like, I can't make this stuff up. And the news crew's filming, and I look at them and I go, the flight mechanic, I get to the door, I go, and they go, and the lady's like, and they're like horrified because, like, I guess he got a bunch of salt water, he had to take a shit, and it just blew out his ass. So he's finishing up, and I point to him, I go, look, and he's a news crew, and he goes, he was like, he turned white. I thought he went into shock, you know what I mean? I thought he was going to fall over. So that was a funny story. And we talked to the guy. He's like, yeah, I tried to hop it off the edge and I fell. I'm like, yeah, now you're shit in front of the news crew, and because everywhere there's our case, they want that news footage, and
Yeah.
it's just funny shit. I'm like, they can just think it's 6 o'clock news. It's going to be 65. This guy's just blowing it out of his ass right near, shit all over the ramp. It stunk so bad. You get out, and you're like, oh, right near the baggage. I'm like, oh, whoa, so, but yeah, so that was it, man. But Houston was a lot of fun.
Holy cow, Claude. That's freaking hilarious.
Oh man, just shit everywhere.
Oh,
Story of my life.
gosh.
Not in a I hate shit in a helicopter, but so
All
because
bad.
everybody starts throwing up. Everybody throws up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Get it once or twice. Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh,
And it's worse when
yeah.
they miss. Like you'll hand them a bag or something, and then they'll miss the
I-
bag,
I'm
and then
throwing up,
you're
yeah.
like, oh man, come on.
I had a case a couple times. I just threw up in a pilot's helmet bag in the back. And I put it back there. Like they'll find it like a week later. Like, my helmet bag stinks. I'm like, yeah, I threw up in it. They're like, I'm like, your shitty ass flying's got me throwing up. You know what I mean? So, because you had all the bags in at 65 a lot of times. Just put, blah, and then I only got air sick a couple times, but so I was notorious for that. So
Oh my
I had a lot
gosh,
of fun.
Claude.
Had a lot of fun, Quinny. Had a lot of fun.
Dude, so funny. So funny. All right. Let me take us up to Cape Cod. So after Houston, you go to Cape Cod. Oh, back to the Cape. Sorry, back to the Cape. We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors. Breeze Eastern, the world's only dedicated helicopter hoist and winch provider.
No.
Oh,
I would say back on the Cape.
no.
Everybody says back on the Cape.
Back on the Cape. Oh, yeah. Back on the Cape. On the Cape.
Yeah.
So those of us that are from New England, we just call it the Cape. Oh, I'm going to the Cape. But we have to emphasize Cape Cod, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
The little hook.
The hook.
So you leave Houston, you go up to Cape Cod, And while you're there, you end up having a couple of great rescues up there. But you went down to Hurricane Katrina. Did you go to
Yeah.
Katrina right like as soon as you got up there, or
So
because you
I checked in, left
okay?
Houston late transfer because I had a lot of non-quals coming in, and went to Katrina. Just went to the ass end of Katrina. So nothing. Stood some duty in New Orleans. Did a couple rooftop. Pulling some dead bodies up, delivering some water. We took some. So it's my first experience with 60, right? So I get to Cape Cod, get a familiar flight. Hey, you're going to Katrina. Fly down to Katrina in a Falcon, right? On a 60 out of Mobile. First day in the 60, and this thing's a beast, right? They're like, Vinny Vaness was the pilot. Did 2 days in this, 2 or 3 days in the 60. I think we pulled one or two people from different places, a couple medevac, somebody from the hospital. Long story short, this guy.
Nope, man. You got hey,
Long
everybody
story
that
long.
comes on here, hey, make long story long. This is the only opportunity that somebody will tell you make a long story long. Come on, I got you, man.
So we're flying 10 hours. We're flying 10-hour, 12-hour days, whatever it was, and I'm in a 60. So I've never been in a 60 before besides the Behars. This thing's a beast. We're in the heat. It's doing what it wants. I'm just 65. So I'm like, so we got to get this. We got to get this water to this Polish tanker. So they throw a whole pallet of water bottles to this Polish tanker that's anchored. So I'm like, hey, we're going to go out. We're going to put this pallet in. We're going to, take off. I'm like, you're going to take off with all this water. And it's a ton, 1 ton. It's 2,000 pounds in the cabin. They're like, yeah, we can do this all day long. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. We're going to crash, I'm thinking, come out to a hover. Thing takes off, go to this Polish tanker, drop me down. I'm going to take the basket. I'm going to take the water out of the basket. So, you load water in, it's breaking. So it's like I'm on this big old deck, and I get lower down. Never forget, never unraised the rotor wash. So I get down to the deck. I disconnect. I don't take a knee like I should on a 65. I'm going to take a knee. I get blown off, dude. I am like sliding towards the end. She's blowing me towards the end into the Mississippi River. I'm like, I'm gonna get killed over rotor wash because it took me off my feet. I laid on my ass, and I'm getting pushed. I'm like, this thing's a beast. So I'm like, oh my god, talk about like trial by fire with rotor wash. She's fine. Don't have any rotor wash like that. So the water cases start coming down, and they're like in this little gunnel. Like there's like the deck, and there's like this thing where these guys are at. So I'm just sliding the cases, and it's like a video game. So I throw a case, and one guy would pop up and grab it, another guy would pop up and grab it. And this is going on. It's finally cases come down. So these water bottles land and they explode. So I'm throwing them at these guys. I'm trying to hit them in the head at this point. So they're like dodging. I throw one. It's having fun, So that was the thing. And then he's like, hey, we're going to go to 270 and get a kid off at 270. He got sick or something like that. So we had to go out to a 270. Well, this guy, they're waiting to do the deck, land us on the deck. Vinny Vaness is taking his helicopter and he's doing circles. Circles around the ship, taking a tailwind. I'm like, oh my God. Like, it was my first experience to a 60. Like, this thing is like God's chariot. That's what I call it, because it's just so beastly, so much power, so capable. And I'm like, I'm going to enjoy the next 4 years, And I love the age 60. I love the age 60, man. Not saying the Augusta is not a bad little ride, but the 60 is just big,
Oh, I love the 60, man. Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't really do a lot in Katrina. Had a lot of good times. Did some duty in New Orleans, but I was at the end. Everybody got an award at Katrina, no matter what it was. I think I got an achievement medal, but it's nothing really. I didn't really do any dramatic rooftop rescues, so still cool to go. Say I've been there, and that's it though. But
man, that's good for you. Like I said, I didn't go, so you guys had
tough.
all the fun.
It was tough. Yeah, I mean, it was cool. It was cool, but so.
Right
but
on.
Yeah.
All right, so let me go to a couple more. So you have you earned a Sikorsky award. You actually earned 2 of them. I know one of them you got up in Alaska, but the other one you got in Cape Cod, and it was for a boat sinking or a sunken boat.
Yeah. So Friday night duty, right? Friday night duty. Long story long.
Friday night duty. Friday night.
Friday night
Thank
duty.
you. Thank you. I love
Yeah.
that.
So long story long, in the shop, Cape Cod, got qualified. Yeah, I was just qualified at the time. Relatively quick, I gave the guys a bunch of beer on night check. I'm like, hey, I need this thing signed off. This guy, Brandon Smith, and come in with like 4 cases of beer under my arm. I'm like, I need to get qualified. Okay, we'll get you qualified. And like 4 nights later, I mean, they worked me through the post flight, but you kind of know, and got qualified pretty quick, and then standing duty. And long story long, on Friday night, we're gonna get a call about 9 o'clock at night. Hey, we got a boat sunk up. I think it was south of Maine, just off New Hampshire, Maine coast up there. Lobster boat sank. So, we're going up there, and I'm like, we're not going to get in the water. It's no way. I just got here, and so it's a dark night, dark and stormy now. It wasn't that bad. Probably like typical North Atlantic, in October. Rollers, but nothing to write home about. So get up there. There's a life raft. I'm like, I'm going to actually get in the water here. This is crazy. So, deploy down to the thing. And I always said that, they're in their immersion suits, so go up to the edge of the raft, pop in the raft, and they're like, guys, like Captain Rotor, the helicopter's behind us, and just making a lot of noise, because they're ready to hoist, And I'm like, ass, grass, or gas, how you paying for this? And the guy goes, what? I'm like, ass, grass, or gas, how you paying for this? I take credit card. He's like, I'm like, I'm kidding. Come on, man. Anybody hurt? So, and he was going to give me a credit card. Like, he was legitimately giving me a credit card. So,
Oh my God, that's great.
I'm like, everybody okay, Cap? I said, everybody's okay. We just want to get out of here. Boat sank. I'm like, what happened? He goes, I don't know. So I'm okay. So put these guys, swim them in a basket, get the life rafts from the basket, go back. It wasn't like trailing or anything major, just your typical like multi in the pool, So get back to the helicopter, and one guy's drinking beer. He's like, want a beer? I'm like, no. he's like, he's like this. He's like, like one go down, and then like digging around his emergency suit, one comes out. He's like, the guy had like a 12-pack in there, So get to the airport, he's dumping his survival suit out, and it's like all these beer cans are falling out. I'm like, hey, sir, you want a beer? He's like, no, I don't want a beer. You know what I mean? But it was just funny as shit. The pilot's like, he was drinking beer. I'm like, yeah, what do you want me to do? Stop him? Like, I'm going to stop him from drinking beer. But typical guy from, probably Gloucester or something like that, like, you're not going to argue with a fisherman. Hey, thanks, Coast Guard, and, dude, that was so much fun, dude. It was just my first case. Your cherries pop for the 60. You're becoming a swimmer now. You got multiple rescues on multiple airframes. So I felt really good about it. So,
oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So
holy cow.
Yeah, man.
All right, so now let me go to another one that you had up in Cape Cod, and I'm going to bring this over here because you earned yourself an air medal, which conveniently enough, you also noted that was 20 miles further away than Scott Holloway's air medal.
Yeah. Further offshore.
So you're just a little bit further offshore. By 20 miles.
But he'll say he has 2 air. He'll say he has 2 air medals, but I'm like, I still was further offshore by 20 miles. And every time I talk to him, I talked to him this week. He's like, because I saw him come on your podcast. Like, oh, you had a good time. I'm like, I'm going to bring up that I was further offshore than you. He goes, every time I talk to you, it's 10 miles. He goes, you're going to be in Portugal by the time you're done with this, aren't you? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, a lot of good mentors. I mean, I had some good mentors in as a setting class. You had to be tough to be in Cape Cod. You had to be a man's man, because if they saw any like chink in your armor, you're going to get hammered, man. Them guys were just practical jokes out the yin yang. It was just, anyway, I can tell you all about them guys. You had to be strong, physically and mentally tough to be stationed in Cape Cod. So
I'll tell you what, let's touch on that in 1 second. Let me get into this rescue, because this is freaking amazing, dude. So here it is. Citation to accompany the award of the Air Medal to AST-1 Claude M. Morrissey, United States Coast Guard. Pastor Morrissey is cited for meritorious achievement in aerial flight while serving as rescue swimmer aboard Coast Guard Air Station Cape Cod Helicopter 6004 on 2nd of July, 2008. Approximately 0300, as in 3 o'clock in the morning. The sailing vessel Avra hailed for an emergency assistance when a 55-year-old female passenger was critically injured in rough seas with a severe head trauma and life-threatening brain hemorrhaging. Located 245 nautical miles southeast of Air Station Cape Cod, the 40-foot sailing vessel was at the extreme edge of the Coast Guard helicopter's fuel endurance and required prompt and precise mission execution under significant time constraints to navigate through the intense thunderstorms while en route to the rescue. Shortly after arriving on scene, the Coast Guard helicopter faced tumultuous 12 to 15-foot seas, which combined with the rotowash caused the 65-foot high mast to sway violently and unpredictable in the massive swells. Quickly assessing the situation, Petty Morrissey recommended a trail line deployment to the sailing vessel to limit the possibility of entanglement. Without hesitation, Petty Morrissey bravely deployed from the helicopter, trusting the untrained crew of the sailing vessel to guide him through the narrow clearing of the rigging to the confined deck below. Without warning, a wave caused the sailing vessel to pitch abruptly, slamming Petty Morrissey against the side of the vessel. Once on deck, he immediately prepared to receive the rescue litter, only to be thrown 5 feet into his back by yet another unexpected swell. Displaying selfless determination, he picked himself up, wrestled the lid of the deck, and immediately focused on the welfare of his patient. Realizing time was critical and the injured passenger's medical condition was fragile, he carefully placed her onto a full backboard with C-spine protection and assisted her recovery from the vessel, all in less than 10 minutes. Struggling through personal injury, fatigue, incapacitating seasickness, Petty Morrissey willingly entered the turbulent sea to expedite his own recovery and ensure the helicopter crew's safety. Petty Morrissey's heroic actions and skills were instrumental in the life-saving long-range medical evacuation of this critically injured crew member. His courage, judgment, and devotion to duty are most heartily commended in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard. Oh, dude, I freaking love this stuff, dude.
I never heard somebody read. I never even read that. You know, you get an award, and I'm like, I never like dwell on it. I just like grab it when they're reading it. You're like up there in front of everybody. You're like, I hope my zipper's up. Like when you're in front of like all hands, you're like, is my gig line straight? Is my titty sweating? You know, I have titty sweat, anything like that. I'm like, man, I'm like always nervous. So you never really hear it. Then you take the award, and it's usually in front of your family, so everybody's hugging you. You never really read it again. So that's the first time I really read it. I'm like, that kind of sums it up, you know. So, you know, we get launched out early in the morning, you know, Quinny. Long story longer, you know, the longest story ever going to hear.
3 a.m., dude. 3 a.m. Yeah, I know. At this point, you're like snuggled up in your cool pillow, little drools coming out. You're like, what the hell? What is that? What is that noise? Turn it off.
Oh God, you know, you just wake up and you got to be in a dry suit in June, so you're sweating your dick off, you know, and you're like, oh my God, it's humid out, you know. So it was July, so you got to wear a dry suit, you know. So get out to, you know, wake up, go to Nantucket, top off, because you got to get 20 miles further from Holloway. It's got to be 20 miles. There's 250. I'm 270, you know, so we got to have that extra fuel. And, you know, we get out there. It's a regatta that goes out of I think out of Newport, Rhode Island every year. And it's just these ultra rich people that just kill it. You know, they just make a ton of money, They go spend their money sailing. Nicest people in the world. But so we get there, get offshore, you know, I'm like, oh man, this is kind of sporty out here. This is a little ass boat, you know. So go to get lowered down by a trail line. You have trail line delivery of us, you know. So we got the weak link in front of you, and these people are pulling you, but they're not really pulling you because it's like, you know, Jerry Trom's a flight mech, and I'm going way back, and then I'm coming way in. I'm going way back, and they're trying to reel me in like a big old, you know, tuna. So I finally get down there. I'm like, oh, this ain't bad. And then all of a sudden the boat drops off. I fall backwards as I'm getting off the hook. Takes off. I fall in these jerry cans of diesel. So I'm so fat, right? I'm so fat and like it's like Tommy Boy just wrecking this boat, like a big old, you know, like just rolling over the boat. I fall back in the diesel. These cans open up and pour diesel all over me. I don't know what is it mean diesel. It's like, so I open these jerry cans up. The guy's trying to screw the lids back down. I was like, you're wrecking my boat. I grab the one handrail, it rips off. I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. I'm like, I'm like, how are these people staying still? Well, they're all tethered in with their little, on sailboats, they clip in. Like, I'm not clipped in. I'm rolling around this boat like a, 300-pound bowling ball, wrecking everything. So she comes out of the bottom. Finally, I get my composure. I'm like, oh my God, I just destroyed this boat. And the guy's like, oh, don't worry about it. So she comes out. They duct taped this woman's hair. So it looked like a football helmet of duct tape. I'm like, I'm going to assess the wound because she had scalp. She had fallen back and she actually ripped the top of her head. Her scalped it. So her whole hair came back. They said that it came forward. So I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, but they had duct taped this bitch. I'm like, they duct taped her whole head was nothing but duct tape down to her eyes. I'm like, well, I'm not pulling the duct tape off, right? So it's not bleeding. So I'm like, call for the litter. Litter comes down. I'll put a sea collar on her, because that's all you're really going to do, right? And, I put the litter down. The litter's destroying stuff because it's a small sailboat. So it's dinging the deck. I'm like, I'm worried about a lawsuit at this point. Like, I'm destroying this boat, Get the lady in. She takes off the trail. I put the trailer on, get her back in. They're like, hey, jump off. So I jump off the side. Didn't have my fins. I don't know why I didn't have my fins. It was just, I don't know. I just wasn't thinking that morning, So jump off the side. And then Jerry Trom is a flight mech, and he can't see shit. He's an Asian, so he's trying to bring the strop to me, and it's not coming. And now the boat's getting farther away. There's C-130 above us. I'm like, I'm gonna get left out here because it's like going 10 minutes trying to get me to keep overshooting me, And finally, I get the strop, get hooked up. I'm super seasick. I've been on that boat. Get back to the helicopter, and the lady's in there, and the corpsman's. Thank God we had a corpsman. So I go back to my seat. And I'm just like, oh my God, whose flight bag is this? I don't care. Threw up in the guy's flight bag. I think it was Mr. Atkins. Zip it back up. I'm like, oh, this is terrible, And
God, dude.
So it's just, you're just on this lady's boat. I'm basically so, I'm like, I'm gonna get sued because I really did a lot of damage to that boat. I ruined all their diesel. The rigging's half ripped off from where I grabbed shit. I'm like, well, it's not my fault. So fly back in. And just a cool case, way offshore, get back to the air station, come back like heroes. Everybody comes out, you're taxiing in with the patient, and the ambulance is there, and it's always a big event, and save the life. And I'm like, I'm gonna go home, and I'm hoping I don't get sued. You know what I mean? Because these people are ultra rich, and they don't want to see their shit get destroyed. So she actually came back to the air station and thanked us. It was kind of cool. But
oh, that's super cool.
Bunch of staples in her head, a lot of staples, but you couldn't really see it because it took it back past the hairline. So it was, she was in bad shape, but she was in the hospital a couple of days, I guess, but just really cool, but get an air medal case for going way offshore, it's just awesome, so, and I didn't expect the air medal.
Past Scott Holloway. Just
20 miles.
Got it. 20 miles.
Got it.
20 miles.
Yep. That's how it's written up.
I don't have Scott's in front of me, but I'm going to reference it. As a matter of fact, it'll be a screenshot right here of Scott's award just to highlight the two of them together.
Yeah. Oh, he gets so mad at me.
Oh, and, God, that's funny.
We have a lot of fun. But that's Cape Cod, man. And then I'd like to tell you about the practical jokes. Some of the stuff that went on up there is just, you want to talk about the helmet now?
You know what? Yeah. I do, because you did mention that. You got some practical jokers up there in Cape Cod. Now, the greatest part about it, I hear a lot of and I have practical jokers like in the shops that I was in too. But man, I've heard some stories from other guys, and I'm like, oh my God. So come on, baby. Come on.
So you get to Cape Cod, and Chuck Ferrante is and Nick Mills. Like, I meet Chuck, and I'm like, this guy seems senior, but he says his name is Nick Mills. So the longest time, like, they switched, like he was a new guy, and Chuck's talking shit the whole time. I check in, he's like, hey, my name's Nick Mills, but it's really Chuck Ferrante. And it's just, and Nick Mills finally blew with his cover. He's like, there's so many stories about Cape Cod, about shit they made me do. Oh God. But anyway, the worst was, so we do that all the time to the new guys. Somebody would be somebody else, So I one time I was Chief Hoffmaster with this brand new guy named Jeff Slaska. So I get back from a flight, and they're like, hey, Chief. And I'm like, I walk in the shop, and I'm like, you got to be quick, They're like, hey, Chief, what's going on? And a Hawkmaster goes, "Hey, Chief, what's going on?" I'm like, "What's up, Harold?" And he goes, "God, the new guy is here. You want to go in your office and talk to him?" I'm like, "Absolutely." So he goes, so Jeff Laska comes in thinking I'm Harold Hawkmaster. So I'm in my drive suit. I'm in Harold's office. I start taking my he's like, and he goes, somebody said the thing he didn't like the most was he didn't like any kind of guys being naked. So of course I'm in Harold's office and this is terrible, man. So I start getting on my dry suit, it's dry suit comes off and he's kind of looking, he's sitting there in a chair and I'm like, yeah, I'm like, it's a good shop with the Cape and I'm been in the Coast Guards in Atlantic City. I'm like being Harold. So next thing I'm completely naked talking to him. I think I have my socks on and I'm like up on the chair like this, I'm up on the chair. I'm like, and then my nuts are all hanging out and everything, and he is like a deer in the headlights. Deer in the headlights, right? So here's where the story gets really shitty for me. So I'm having a great time with this. He is horrified. I'm like, "Do you want a hug?" He's like, "I want to hug him." He's like, "No, I don't want to hug." You know what I mean? I'm completely naked. Well, they call Miss Arco up. Miss Arco is a pilot. She comes down and she's like, I hear a knock on the door. I knock on the door. I hear the door open and I hear Arco's voice and I'm like, and I'm like, and all the guys are watching me get naked because the door is open and she's like, "Hey, Chief," and I'm like, jump down into the chair and I'm sitting there like this, trying to cover my junk up. She's like, "What's going on, Chief? How you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, these guys set me up so bad." I'm like, "Hey, Miss Arco," I'm like, "I'm just talking to the new guy." I'm trying to she could see everything. You know what I mean? She could see everything. And I'm like, "Oh my God." I'm like, this is the fucking, so now I'm all embarrassed. And he's like, this kid is horrified because now there's a female lieutenant commander looking at me naked and he don't know what to do. So finally the cat's out of the bag. Everybody's laughing, and, I had her driving around Maine. We're doing ATON up there, and she didn't know what the shocker was. So we're driving around. I'm like, "Hey, Miss Starkey, this is a new gang sign, because it's like '06, whatever it was, '05." And she's like, "Oh yeah." She's flipping the gang sign. So finally, we go to Olive Garden at night as a crew because we're deployed. And she goes to the waitress, super cute little waitress, probably like 22, college student up in Portland, Maine, or Bangor, Maine, wherever it was. And she goes, "Ma'am," she goes, "Can I ask you something?" She goes, "What does this mean?" And the whole crew is like, Ed Liebold, Figueroa, the other guy was like, "Oh my God." And the pilot, he starts, the other co-pilot, like it was so embarrassing. She goes, "I know what that means," but she goes, "I'm not going to tell you." And I'm like, she goes, "Claude, what does that mean?" Mr. Arco was so mad at me, but well, she tells me to get a rental car, right? She tells me to get a rental car. They're going to do ATON. So I'm like, "Hey, you go to the rental car at the airport." She's like, "And don't get anything extravagant." I'm like, "Okay." So I'm like, "Hey, you got any SUVs?" Like, "No, we got no Suburbans or anything." I'm like, "You got a Cadillac?" He goes, "Yeah, I got a DeVille." I'm like, "I'll take it." So I pull up to the thing later on that day in this big Cadillac. She goes, "How much is this going to cost?" I go, "I don't know." I said, "But it's a Cadillac. How could you not? We'd be comfortable." She goes, "Only you would get a Cadillac." But Miss Arco had she was a lot of fun. So, but yeah, here is poor Jeff Slaska. My nuts are all hanging out and I'm embarrassed. He's embarrassed. Everybody's embarrassed. So, but, so long story longer, Scott Holloway's flight helmet, right? There's this joke going back and forth. There's a couple really, Chris Davis and Sean Persinger, very talented individuals. They can take they can make anything. Artists just really good at what they do. They take a clear lens off a flight helmet and they do this epic penis. It's like the Superbad came out, so everybody's drawing penises and stuff on everything. Dude, this thing was just epic. It had the sack. It just came across. It was perfect. It was a very nice looking penis, So, and it's etched into the clear visor. So Scott Holloway's on an Admiral flight, flying some Admiral around. They come all the time, give him a flight suit. Admiral come in. Okay, we're gonna go fly. And so Scott Holloway is running the radios in the 60, and I guess he goes to put the visor down for some reason. Probably had his sun visor down and flips it up, and it's like he could see it's just an epic cock right in front of him. And he's like, And the admiral's like looking at him, I think, and he's like flips it back up and he flips it down. The flight mech looks, and the flight mech goes, "Oh my God," like the pilot's like, "What's going on?" So he's like, "Oh, nothing, sir." So he comes back to the shop and he's like, he's not mad, he's just laughing because it's just, you never know what was going to happen in Cape Cod, man. I mean, just always something, always a practical joke in the works and everything else. And oh man, I mean, oh God, dude. So that was funny as shit with that penis. I don't know where that visor went. I'd love to find out where it went because it's awesome looking. But so we get exchange pilots up there, right, all the time, right? From Canada. We had one from Australia. Well, the swimmer shop is it's a door inside at the time. There's a secure door to go in the air station, but on the side you just open the door up and go to the swimmer shop. So a lot of times we get visitors that come, people check, like, don't know how to get in air station. They go to our door and they walk in, they walk into a swimmer shop. So this Australian pilot shows up and he's in this white hat, white shirt, white shorts, white socks almost up to the bottom of the shorts, down, and white shoes. I didn't know who he was. And I'm packing a Falcon shoot on a Friday. He goes, "Hey, I'm such and such from Australia." I go, "Yeah. Did you fall off the Love Boat, dude? Where's the Love Boat dock down the end of the pier?" And he's like, "Look at me." I'm like, he's a nice guy, he's an Australian pilot. I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Are you here to is that like somebody's like, I thought somebody was pranking me, you know what I mean? Like this guy's got this." I'm like, "Nice fake Australian accent, sir." He's like, "I'm the Australian pilot checking in." I'm like, "We don't have no Australian pilots," you know what I mean? And Hoffmaster comes around the corner. He's like, "Dude, that's really the Australian pilot." I'm like, "This isn't a practical joke." You know what I mean? Because I said, nobody would dress like this. I said, nobody would. And I'm like, insult this guy, I'm like, "Who in the world dresses with white socks and white shorts, Hoff?" And he goes, "He's really the pilot." I go, "I'm not playing this game." I'm like, and Hoff's like, "Oh my God." He goes, "You're going to get booked." You know what I mean? I just, they give up, and sure as shit, he was the Australian pilot. But I really thought somebody was playing a joke on me. I'm like, because who the fuck coming from Australia? But anyway, so, but that was Cape Cod, man. You had to be strong. You had to be strong, man. I did my medic school up there. That was cool. Being a paramedic, it was cool being a medic for like 10 minutes. Now I'm over it. So, but yeah, man. But
Wow.
Yeah, Cape Cod's an awesome place. So, but
dude, that's so fun.
Yeah, man. So,
well, we're gonna get into Air Station Kodiak next because you went up there after you left Cape Cod. Well, it seems to be that time because we've hit our bingo. We'll be relaunching for part 2 of this episode after we refuel. We'll see you soon. Go. Now, it's time for me to pull chocks and take off. But before I go, I'm always looking for the memorable rescues that people have done. If you have one that you're willing to share or know somebody who has a story, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to highlight it here at the Real ResQ. For everybody that is standing by for that SAR alarm, remember, those in distress are praying for a miracle. They are going to get you. So until next time, fly safe and swim hard. Thank you for joining me today here at the Real ResQ Podcast, powered by Vertical Helicast. We'd also like to say thank you to our sponsors for this episode, Breeze Eastern. They dedicate themselves to our helicopter rescue world. Since the very first helicopter rescue in November of 1945, Breeze Eastern has designed and manufactured superior rescue hoist solutions. While much of the technology and the unique mission requirements have changed over the past 75 years, their commitment to the rescuers, the operators, and those being rescued has not. Contact them today by visiting them at breeze-eastern.com. Hey, rule number 4, try to keep up. And if you can't keep up, take notes. There are constant changes happening all around us. New techniques, new gear and equipment, new rules, new standards, and we can always get more training. If you're not keeping up on this stuff, you're falling behind. Just because this is the way you've always done it does not mean this is the best way.